Hello, and thank you for joining me once again for Scots United, where I and my team of Scots, who are also me, bring you the latest in television, movies, and pop culture. So let's get right to it and go to Scott to tell you about a recent offering from Netflix.
Hey Scott, so if you haven't already checked out the Bandersnatch, or just I think it's Bandersnatch on Netflix, I mean you really should. For the uninitiated, it's part of the Black Mirror, I don't know, universe, I guess you could call it. Um, Black Mirror I've described to people as it's like the Twilight Zone, but with a focus more on technology, right, and the perils of technology and technological advancement and the internet and a whole bunch of stuff. And occasionally there's some sweet episodes, but generally it's scary and kind of doom inspiring.
Yeah, Black Mirror is good at making you see things that you can't unsee.
So Bandersnatch is a choose your own adventure movie. And I know that sounds kind of hokey. It sounds like, do you send the dwarf into the mine, or do you open the door with the cleric? It sounds like Dungeons and Dragons or something, and it sounds like and there were those 80s books that I read, that maybe you read, that were choose your own adventure. So I was a little bit like, we'll see, this Bandersnatch movie. And of course, Bandersnatch is also a term you find in the Jabberwocky from Lewis Carroll.
Oh, sure, Lewis Carroll, so like Alice in Wonderland. So sounds like there's lots and lots of layers to this movie.
It's very meta, which is not surprising for Black Mirror, right? In the story, which is set in the movie, set in the 80s, the main character is trying to create one of those early computer games based off this fictional book that the author drove himself mad and killed himself. But the book itself is Choose Your Own Adventure, and so he's trying to create all these alternate possibilities within the game. He is also mentally ill, going through some stuff, on medication, and, it's interesting. As it moves forward, the tension rises, which is not surprising for Black Mirror, and you are pulled into that tension because of the way in which they've structured the movie and the choices and the perils of the main character. So it is, unsurprisingly, very inventive, very now, and definitely worth your time.
Have you investigated every option?
I haven't gone back to try it again. When you go through it once, you do have the option at times to kind of reset and go a different direction. I know from reading some articles there are some directions that I didn't even see, and there's definitely some surprises. So just for the experience alone.
Well, that sounds like a dark, twisted good time. Netflix has said they are open to doing more choose your own adventure type things. They already do it in children's programming, so we'll have to see if this becomes a kind of new area that can create some good content. Now let's go back to Scott and check out another regular series television offering. Hey Scott, I know, not anybody other than us has a subscription to Hulu, but hey, I feel like we should keep covering some Hulu shows because they're good. Agreed. Carry on. You should think about checking out Runaways. Now, I know, Netflix had its own little cluster of Marvel properties, and there's The Gifted on Fox, which does a decent job back and forth. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're okay. But Runaways, Season 2 just got released. Season 1's already available. It's based off a comic where essentially this group of kids, some with superpowers, some not, realize that their parents are like supervillains, and they kind of run away in reaction to that. The show has really deepened that, complicated it in a good way, given more story to the adult characters, the parents. There's some great actors in that group. There's some great young actors in the child group. There's some really fun developments. I'm halfway through Season 2, so if you like a well-done, well-shot, well-acted, interesting, motivated, with characters with interesting, angles to them, then really, I think The Runaways is a really, really tight show. Sounds like fun! And I hear that there's a dinosaur. There is also, yes, a dinosaur that can be mind-controlled by one of the girls. Yeah. Finally, tonight is the Golden Globes. Now, if you've been watching the show, you know that I like to give the Golden Globes a hard time because they are sort of a glorified popularity contest. They obviously and clearly nominate just people they like sometimes, even if the work isn't as good. They're not really a good predictor for other awards to come. So if you're like doing an Oscar pool at work in a month, the Golden Globes aren't really always a good barometer because they just aren't. But in that way, there's room for some interesting things to happen. So, like, let's say, Best Actress Drama. Why is Lady Gaga nominated in this category, not musical or comedy, since there's so much singing and she does so much singing in A Star is Born? I don't know. But she's probably going to win. I feel like they won't be able to help themselves but to give her a Golden Globe. Not that she's not good, it's just the way the Golden Globes are. Will A Star is Born also win Best Picture for drama? Maybe. I'm not sure. Because the Golden Globes also likes to surprise us. And that is not a bad thing. In that way, I think Best Actor in a Drama, I think it's going to go to Rami Malek. I think it is. Even though Bohemian Rhapsody is kind of a middling film, I think that's where they'll go. That's just a guess. I think comedy, it's going to be Olivia Colman, and I think it's going to be Christian Bale. That's just my take on how I think the Golden Globes will go. And I think the favorite might also take the big prize for comedy or musical as well. But we shall see. We shall see. Now, supporting categories, I think, frankly, are wide open because, again, they like to surprise, and I'm not pinning any of these down. Looking at them, I think it could really go several ways. There's so many strong contenders, so we'll see. Animated film, I did want to take a moment to shout out Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If you have not taken the time to go see it yet, you should. It is good. It is great, actually. And, you know, this category has Incredibles 2. I love The Incredibles. And it has some great, it has I Love Dogs, and I love Wes Anderson. But Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, it's very modern. It's very different in how it presents the story. It's heartfelt. It's visually fantastic. And honestly, it's pretty great. Pretty great. So even if it doesn't win, you should still check it out. Director, again, will it go to Cuarón because of Roma, who is like the director's director? Will they go the new director route and give it to Bradley Cooper? Could Spike Lee sneak in there? I'm not sure. I am not sure. I will be watching, however. On the TV side, I feel like it's almost even more wide open because the Golden Globes doesn't like to repeat itself. For comedy, will Marvelous Mrs. Maisel repeat? Maybe. Or maybe they'll give it to The Good Place because it's keeps getting better and better. Similarly, will Kristen Bell win as opposed to Brosnahan? Hard to say. In drama, will they give it to the Americans who deserve every award there is? Will Kerry Russell finally get her award, her lead actress award for this? She might already have a Golden Globe for, I'm not even sure. She has one for Felicity, I know that. But maybe they'll give it to Sandra Oh, who is also a host with Andy Samberg, which should be great, by the way. So maybe they'll go that route, and suddenly she'll be a winner and a host. It could happen. I don't know, looking at my notes. But then again, her show, Killing Eve, that might win. Didn't win the Emmy. Neither of them did. Maybe it'll be a Killing Eve night. You never know with the Golden Globes, and that's what makes it fun. Finally, we might see some Emmy repeats. After all, that'll just repeat what we just saw a few months ago, like Darren Criss will probably win for Gianni Versace again. But now, we have Amy Adams in the mix because Sharp Objects, although it didn't qualify for the Emmys, does for the Golden Globes. I would bet she'll win. And the weirdest category, as always, is the TV supporting actor and actress categories because they lump in supporting actors from TV movies, miniseries, and regular shows, comedy and drama, and just put them all together in a big old bowl. So, who knows? It's the Golden Globes. Everyone's drinking and getting drunk and having a good old time. It should be a lot of fun, so I'll be watching. I hope you'll be watching. Either way, I'll give you some highlights next week.